to talk about that Arsenal midfield, actually, because I think at Anfield, he was criticised, Arteta, for being a little bit too conservative in the way in which they approach the game. How do you think they approach this one, and what do you think is that best three in the middle?
Well, everybody approaches Anfield conservatively. We did as well, and we had a better team than us had, with the utmost respect. You go to Anfield with respect because you can get hurt there. And the same thing when you're going to play, you know, Pep Guardiola and Manchester City. You know, they, in terms of personnel and players, you know, Arsenal have a great squad, but City have a better one. So I think Mikel's clever. You approach that game with respect and a little bit of, you know, you can bring players on to change the game. So I think for the first time, Mikel has a team to compete to win the Premier League. I don't think he had one before. I think the squad is for the first time with a puncher's chance to say, right, come on, City, come on, Liverpool. Let's see what you got. And I think with Gyökeres and all these players that are coming out, I just think Zubameni, I think now they can go toe-to-toe. And that's why this season is so important for Arsenal.
Oh, and do you think they'll play three in that with Arsenal, Zubamendi, Rice, Odegaard? Or do you think they'll play Odegaard and Rice together and maybe push... Rice and Zubamendi together and push Odegaard further forward?
No, yeah, Zubamendi will play. Just like you said, he's a European champion. He knows how to play in a big game like that. And you want to find a way to keep the ball against City. So I'd be shocked if Zubamendi didn't play. But I think now that midfield, you look at Arsenal's midfield, it's great. Zubamendi, Rice, Odegaard. But actually City now with Rodri, Reinders and Phil Foden back to being Phil Foden, that's, you know, that's box office. So be curious to see who comes out on top there.
Yeah, very interesting battle happening in the midfield, especially considering he dropped Rice, I think, for the Forest game. Let's talk about that Arsenal forward line, because you said for the first time now they have a squad that can really compete. That's very impressive. And you know they were plugging gaps. They were playing Merino up top last season. Now it's very different. And I think one player who got a lot of flack when he joined Arsenal, Arteta did, was Madueke.
Yeah.
And I think he's been impressive so far.
Yeah, he's a very good player. And the cool thing about Madueke is he can play both sides. He can play left or right. And I think now even you think about Eze, you see there the goal from Zubamendi. I always say to even my son's team, sit at the edge of the box on corners, the ball will come to you. And it always says that is a great strike. This ball from California is crazy. And this ball from Eze is nuts. Honestly, that goal is amazing. People always try to play between the lines. But sometimes if they come press, play beyond them. Gyökeres is started in brilliant form, obviously with 3 goals. And you think about Madueke, your point, Eze, Gyökeres, and then you got Saka, obviously, and Martinelli and Odegaard. You got all these options in case somebody gets injured. That's why I think Arsenal can, for the first time, say, come on, bring it on.
It will be a fascinating game because of what's at stake. If City were to lose this game, and assuming Liverpool win the Merseyside derby, they would be 9 points behind Liverpool at the top. They'd be 6 points behind Arsenal in second. And I wonder, and you know about playing in all these big games, whether that will affect the way that City go into it. They can't go on the attack and leave gaps for a defence that's kind of finding its way still, even though they've got the experience between the sticks.
Yeah, I still think the 2 fullbacks, you know, for City, they're finding something there. I think, obviously, with Donnarumma is a huge plus to them. He could turn out to be the biggest transfer of anybody, I think. And I think he gives them stability in terms of those big moments. He can make saves. But I was at the game at the Etihad against Man United. And even United had some, even though the scoreline suggested it was one-sided, United had some moments on the counter-attack where they could have got something. So I think Pep will approach the game quite respectfully as well, because you never know, anything can happen in a game like that.
Yeah, he's actually gone 4 unbeaten without a win against Arteta, and it's never 5 in a row. So there's a little bit of history to be made as well. Let's talk more about Phil Foden, though, and the way he played in the derby and what you expect from him.
Yeah, I thought him and Doku were the 2 best players in the game. Obviously, Haaland got the headlines because of the goals. But Phil is just such a beautiful football player. He's so smart, can take the ball. I mean, look at that, his feet. Doku, I think, has just played incredible in the games that I've seen. That finish from Erling Haaland. And they need Phil and they need his energy, and I think they need Doku's energy. That little shift from Doku was fantastic. Great little header from Phil. Phil Foden, if you think about all the money that's been spent on all these players in the world, he cost them nothing. And he could end up being their best player. So I'm delighted to see Phil back to his best. He's a special kid. He's a special football player. And he could decide that game. That's how form he's in.
I agree with that, because I think if you look at Foden, you look at Doku, as strong as their Arsenal defence is, the way that they play and their ability and creativity between the lines they can pull players out of position to create opportunities for Haaland. And Haaland appears to be, and I think we started off by talking about the Champions League, the goal that Foden created for Haaland, on the run, nodding in, understanding the ball, reading that ball so well. It was a thing of beauty, as you say, and I think it was symptomatic of what City can do against an Arsenal defence that is so good.
You talked about Phil Foden and creating for Haaland. Let's talk about Haaland, because unbelievable, even by, as you mentioned, these standards, even by their own standards, because they have set such high standards for themselves. Even last season, when he's still scoring goals, you know, he's not up to that usual mark, and you say, he didn't have a great season. That's crazy.
But I think the great ones like Haaland, you know, they set their own standards. You know, he doesn't really have an equal in that. And, you know, people can talk about, you know, the footballing and the skills and all that. He's the best goal scorer there is, you know, and if you get him a chance, he's going to score 9 times out of 10. And I just love the fact, even for young kids watching, yeah, he scores goals and he always makes runs. But when he presses, he's all in. And I think the example he sets for strikers, say, you've got to go press. I think it has a huge impact on the rest of the team. But his goal scoring and his finishing, his athleticism is just it's remarkable.
I'm going to ask you, obviously you've won the Champions League, you've played with some top strikers, including Rooney, etc. But Haaland's numbers are insane. 90 goals in 101 games for Manchester City. 19 out of 20 games in London he scored.
Yeah.
Where does he compare with the strikers you played with?
Oh, he's up there with them. But again, he doesn't have the body of work that they had. But you think we won the Champions League because we had Tevez and Rooney up front, and they were scoring, but they were pressing. And I think Ireland is just, he's just a machine. He's born to score goals. He shows that every time.
He also has 4 in 6 against Arsenal, and there's beef there. Talk to us about that narrative.
Yeah, there is that beef, because obviously he had to bust up with Miles Lewis Skelly, famously told him to be humble. And then when it all fell apart for City last season, they were reminding him of that. And he had to swallow it. But now they're back in business. Now they're back in form. He scored 5 goals against Moldova for Norway in their 11-1 win. And City are starting to find their stride again. So with that confidence, they go back to the Etihad, and you can bet your boots that if he were to score, he'll be reminding 1 or 2 players of the need to be humble.
Yeah, that's the soap opera. Those are the storylines, man. That's why we love this Premier League. Donnarumma, you mentioned him very briefly, but what a debut as well. A clean sheet.
Yeah, I mean, how he only cost, 25 million, I'll never know. At 26 years old, you know, he won the Champions League. Probably helped PSG win the Champions League with the big saves that he made in all those games. I really believe that could be one of the biggest signings of any team. And you look at Pep, everybody says, oh, he's not a Pep keeper because he's not great with his feet. He's good enough with his feet. Everybody said Haaland wasn't a Pep striker. And that's a cool thing about Pep. Pep continues to evolve on what he needs. He saw an option with Trafford situation, hadn't really gone his way. Realised we had to do something, and he did. And I think Donnarumma could, you know, he's one of the best, without question. The save he made against Mbeumo at the Etihad was... No, I don't think any other goalkeeper in the league outside of Alisson makes that save.
There was another save that he made against Cesca. More worrying him out of it, really, with the sheer size and his ability to spread himself and give him something to think about, and he missed the opportunity. But I think the interesting thing about Guardiola is that, as far as goalkeepers are concerned, he's decisive. If he brings one in and they don't work, they're gone. No time to stand on ceremony and worry and give him more of a chance. And Trafford, quite clearly, in that game, had made so many mistakes that he just thought, I can't afford to indulge him. I've got to bring in that quality. And when it becomes available... And I have to say, I was surprised that PSG let him go. But also PSG, they brought someone in who is very good anyway. They were terrific in midweek. So they might not feel that they've lost a lot, but City have certainly gained a lot.
Yeah, they certainly have. Well, from one titanic clash to another, it's the Merseyside derby this weekend. A fixture full of passion, grit and heart, where local pride is on the line. Everton head to Anfield to face Liverpool and their attacking riches.